So Van Jones, who's actually a very pleasant person, he's actually the nicest communist I've ever met in my life, and he's very sweet. I met him during one of my things I shouldn't have been doing, which was advocating for prison reform. I'm atoning for my sins, everybody. Okay. Anyway, so Van Jones was talking about me, and there's so many lies involved in what he said here. First of all, I never said the first element of what he said. I did say the second part, but this is a very important thing to focus on. So Van Jones is saying I should be ashamed of myself. And just a reminder, the murder of Irina Zarutska, did you know that the attacker said, quote, "I got that white girl"? The attacker racialized this, just for the record. Now, mind you, do you notice that the media all of a sudden tries to play the moral high ground when we start to try to make them live up to the standard that they created and the construct that they forced and the paradigm that they constituted under George Floyd? The moment that we make them have to live up to their own standard, they start to cry foul. As soon as we start to make them live up to the George Floyd standard, oh, what is Charlie Kirk racializing this? And by the way, Van Jones also has a major lie embedded into this whole thing. Listen carefully. Race hustler, Marxist, Van Jones. By the way, Van, you're welcome on my program. I'll treat you well. I will give you an uninterrupted opening statement. Van Jones, if you want to go talk about black crime and urban decay, man, you're always welcome on this program. Because even though, quote unquote, you're an expert in race hustling, I've been around the block a couple times. I know your tricks, and they don't work here. Your magical spells don't work here. Your little hocus pocus, you are racist. Boop, doesn't work here. We got holy water here. Play cut 351.
Charlie Kirk to say, we know he did it because she's white, when there's no evidence of that. It's just pure race mongering, hate mongering. It's wrong. Then he says that if something like that had happened the other way, there would be sweeping changes imposed on society. Where is the George Floyd Policing Act? It didn't pass. Even when you had a white police officer murder a black man on live television, the whole world saw, there were no sweeping changes. In fact, not one law was passed at the federal level. That we don't know how to deal with people who are hurting in the way this man was hurting. Hurt people hurt people. What happened was horrible. Someone like Charlie Kirk, he should be ashamed of himself. No one mentioned the word race, white, black, or anything except him.
Okay, so there's a lot there. First of all, when Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, was asked repeatedly by the media, was there racial animus involved in Derek Chauvin's actions against George Floyd? He said no, and they dodged the question. Do you know that there is no evidence that Derek Chauvin acted racially? If you think Derek Chauvin acted racially, then you're a racist and parting racial type fantasies and mythologies into a situation of which it does not exist. And by the way, just if you're taking notes, Media Matters, George Floyd overdosed, okay? You can write that down, take it to the bank. In fact, we have Ben Shapiro coming up next segment, of which I'm going to have him remind us of all the facts. Anyway, that's not what this is even about. Here is the tweet that I sent out. Quote, if a random white person simply walked up to and stabbed a nice law-abiding black person for no reason, it would be an apocalyptically huge national story used to impose national sweeping political changes on the whole country. Of course this is true. Everybody knows this is true. Our media thirsts for stories like this. I want you to imagine if a white guy sitting on a bus and a black woman just on her phone, all of a sudden the white guy took out a knife and just stabbed her in the neck repeatedly. How do you think our media would react? We would have protests. Wendy's would have, boy, I'll tell you right now, there would be 100 burned Wendy's around the world. I mean, in every city. I mean, it would be so on top they'd start burning the Denny's. They use Emmett Till 70 years later because of this, because it's a case of a horrifying murder of an innocent black person by hateful whites. It's so rare they had to go back 70 years. But you know what? When a white person is murdered, we don't burn down the country. But when George Floyd overdosed on drugs, it's Floydapalooza. But for the opposite, we have to go back one day. Literally, there was another, several happened this last week. Another white girl was just murdered by a black person in Alabama. A woman butchered walking her dog. There was also one that happened in South Carolina and one that happened in Virginia. That is 4 white women in the American South that just recently were butchered by black criminals. So we take a step back and say, well, what's really going on here? What's really going on here is a situation where Van Jones is acting like if I said something I did not say, when in reality, we're asking a very simple question, Mr. Jones. Very simple question. which is, will you apologize for all the criminal justice reform that you pushed forward that allowed these 14-time criminal offenders to walk the streets? Because you are the architect and the designer of constantly feeling bad for the criminal that then can kill more people like Irina Zarutska. And by the way, I did not bring up race. The attacker said, quote, I got that white girl, end quote. People say, why does the race matter? Oh, it matters because you made us care about race in the summer of 2020. Looks like you got to live up to the book of your own rules. The second that we make you live up to your ridiculous paradigm, you collapse.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.